Hello, we are talking about leveling up your read aloud. I'm Jody Rodriguez from Growing Book by Book, and read alouds is probably one of my top 3 favorite things to talk about. So I'm excited to jump in with you and level up our read alouds that we do in our classrooms for the new school year. So let me ask you this. Do you grab a book and just read it to the kids, or do you plan your read-alouds? Do you close the book when you're done reading and that's that, or do you extend the thinking in some way? Do you have kids that squiggle and squirm while you're reading, or do you have an engaged crowd? So I want to show you how we can make read-alouds a time where we are being purposeful about choosing the books that we read to the kids. We're engaging the kids so that they're not every single time squiggly and wormy, and we're going to extend their thinking. Those are the 3 things that we're going to talk about today. So let's dive right in with the very first one, which is planning your read-alouds. So I've been guilty of it before, that I haven't planned which book or books that I'm going to read aloud to the kids that day. And I just grab something off the shelf. And 9 times out of 10, when I do that, it's a flop. And there are several reasons for this. The main one is, I think just as with anything that we don't prepare beforehand, typically it doesn't go very well. And we have to be really purposeful about the kinds of books that we choose for a whole group read aloud, because books for a whole group read aloud are a whole lot different than choosing a book to read one-on-one or even with just a couple of kids. So we have to be very mindful of that. And in the past, I've shared kind of this BREAD acronym of finding books that are going to engage that whole group. So these are books with bright, bold pictures for B. For R, we're looking for that rhythm and rhyme. For E, we're looking for books that engage. For A, we're looking for the actual amount of time that it takes to read the book, because we know a preschooler at the beginning of the school year does not have the same attention as a preschooler at the end of the year, and a kindergartner is going to have a different attention span than a first grader is going to have. So the amount of time that it's going to take, and is it going to fit our audience needs? And then D, we want lots of dialogue in that book, because to keep the kids' attention, a book that has dialogue is going to be much more engaging. So that's the BREAD acronym, B-R-E-A-D. If you keep those things in mind as you're selecting books for a whole group read aloud, you are going to most likely, I would say about over 90% of the time, choose a successful book that's going to engage the kids and is going to be a winner for a read aloud, and one that you're going to want to come back to time and time again. But I also challenge you to analyze the diversity of the books that you're using. Very often in early childhood, we tend to read a lot of fiction. And there's nothing wrong with fiction, but I just challenge you to look for other genres besides just fiction, pulling in more nonfiction, pulling in poetry, pulling in graphic novels, pulling in from a variety of sources, so that we're really enriching the reading repertoire of our students. And also diversity of making sure that we are choosing books that represent the kids in our classroom. Our kids should be able to see themselves in books. So really look at the characters and at the books that you have. Do you have diverse cultures and diverse backgrounds of characters in those books? Are the kids that you are serving in your classroom, will they be able to see themselves in the books? If not, I really challenge you to look for some more books. And I have lots and lots of book lists to help you with that. So also we sometimes tend to hold on to our old favorites, and then we kind of turn a blind eye to all the new great books that are out there. So I also challenge you to find some new books, and that is a huge passion of mine. And so obviously, if you're in the Growing Book by Book community, you are learning about those new books, because I'm constantly sharing those new books with you, just as much as I'm sharing the old classics and the favorites. I share the new stuff with you too. So just broaden the horizons of your reading repertoire this year, and you're going to see great things. I have several resources that I'll leave links for that will help you. One thing I have are month by month read aloud book lists. These are chapter book read aloud lists for preschool, kindergarten, first grade, and very soon I will have a second grade one too. And this is month by month. There's a chapter book that I recommend so that you can do a chapter book read aloud. This is in addition to all the wonderful picture books that we're sharing throughout the year. But one of the reasons I like these lists and I created them is I find so often that as a whole group read aloud, we do Charlotte's Web in kindergarten, and then the first grade teacher does it, and the second grade teacher does it too. And not that there's anything wrong with sharing a book more than one time. I love that. It's just there are so many great books. So wouldn't it be cool if everyone in the school, in preschool, we did these chapter book read alouds, kindergarten, we did these chapter book read alouds, first grade, second grade, of all the books and genres that we would expose the kids to. So that is one of the reasons that I created these lists, and also keeping in mind like what month of the year it is and what might be a great book for that month seasonally too. So I have those for you. And then I have over 100 other book lists on different topics and themes that you might be studying, or just interests that the kids might have. I have circle time books that are perfect for circle time, interactive books. I have so many resources, so I'll leave the links for you and you can work on building your list. So I challenge you to stay current this year, add some more diversity into your classroom. So that's number one way to amp up and level up your read-alouds this next school year. Number two is be proactive before reading. It goes back to don't just grab the book off the shelf and read it to the kids. You actually want to read through every book before you share it with the kids, because you will find that, oh yeah, I could do a character voice here, or you just get a feel for the story. So you're not going to fumble through it as you're reading. That is going to help with your engagement. So many times I've seen read-alouds fall apart because it wasn't purposeful in the book that was chosen, and the person who is reading, the teacher generally is who I've been observing, or a librarian, hasn't pre-read the book, and so they're not prepared to read the book aloud and keep the class engaged. So watching book trailers can sometimes be a fun way to at least get familiar with the book if you can't read it from cover to cover. But generally, picture books are not that long, so read them over the weekend or the night before. You're going to read them with the students. And number three, authentic extending. So very often we like to extend the story, and this is often done as a craft, which there isn't anything wrong with doing a craft afterwards. Some people do reading, might do a reading log, or maybe some type of reading response sheet or something like that. But what I would challenge you to do is to think of some ways that you can authentically extend the stories. Ways that you can have conversations with the kids to bring them into the story, and ways that you can bring the story to life. And these can be things like creative retellings. So getting maybe felt pieces or puppets or something of the characters from the stories so that the kids can do a retelling of the story. Taking a trip, or having some type of taking a trip of someplace that you may have read about in the story, or some type of tactile experience, even just some type of scent or something that they can touch from the story. So let me give you a few examples to make that a little more concrete for you. Rainbow Stew, a book that I love on many different levels. after you read that one. So it's a story about a family that goes out in the rain and picks things, vegetables from the garden, then comes in with their grandfather and makes rainbow stew. So one way that you could extend this or make it more authentic is to actually go outside to a garden and let the kids walk around in the garden, see what they notice. Maybe bring in some vegetables. If you don't have a garden that you can take your class to, just bringing in different vegetables from the story and passing those around and letting the kids touch them and explore them. Cut them open. What do they notice inside? We are authentically bringing the story to life. We're going on a bear hunt. I think that's all a favorite one. A very authentic experience to do after that one is to go on a walk with the kids. Go on a walk through the school. Go on a walk outside. Chant some of the parts from the story. Make up some new chants as you come across different terrain in your environment that you're taking a walk in. We're authentically bringing that story to life. Knuffle Bunny, a very, very favorite by Mo Williams, where Trixie loses her little blanket and it's at the laundromat. Well, the night before, send home a note with the kids. Everybody can bring in their little comfy blanket or their little snuggle stuffed animal or whatever they have, whatever their little thing is, and they can bring it in and then they can hold it while you read the story. Another way we're authentically bringing that story to life. One more, Mouse Paint, another very favorite book. I'm trying to use familiar ones that you can all associate with. Mouse Paint, about the mice and the mixing of the colors. Well, it just so naturally, authentically flows in to having paints out for the kids to mix different colors and create their own pictures. Doesn't even have to be them painting something specific. Let it just be process art. Let them just explore. All ways that we are authentically bringing books to life. So those are my 3 ways for you to level up your read-alouds this year. Be very purposeful about broadening the horizons of your kids with the books that you bring into the classroom, making sure you are well prepared and practicing those character voices. If you need some practice or need a little help with that, I strongly suggest going to storylineonline.org, and there are professional actors and actresses who are reading children's books on there, and I guarantee you will pick up some tips for reading aloud. And number 3, authentic extending of the books, looking for ways that you can bring books to life for the kids, providing some type of tactile experience or associating it with something in their life, either through something physical or through conversations. So I would love to know how else you are going to level up your read-alouds. Which one of these ideas are you going to try? Let me know. And until next time, I'm Jody with Growing Book by Book.